the new BMW 2 Series Gran Tourer. What is this, a Gran Coupe, isn't it? That's a good start. Someone was recording it. Some people say the BMW product lineup can be a little bit confusing. There are so many different versions and variants of different models that it can leave your head in a spin. Case in point, the brand new BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe. Nothing to do with the 2 Series Active Tourer or the 2 Series Gran Tourer. Nope, those are both minivans, I think. This is basically a 4-door version of a 2-door 2 Series Coupe, which itself is based on a 5-door 1 Series hatchback. And if you can't understand that, I can't help you. It's actually quite simple, really. If you want a relatively small car that has the space of a saloon, the versatility of a hatchback, and the looks of a coupe, then this is the BMW you want.
This happens to be the sporty M235i version in front of me, so you can assume, quite rightly, that it's very quick. Although it will probably be quite a different car to drive than the previous M235i due to the fact that it's no longer rear-wheel drive. The basic car is front-wheel drive, although this model happens to use BMW's xDrive system. But we'll talk about performance and power later on.
Before all of that, do me a quick favor, please hit the like button and the subscribe button and leave any comments down below if you have any questions about this car. Right, let's have a look around.
Bmw Styling Direction in 2019 attracts a fair bit of negative headlines in the press. And by headlines, I mean people moaning. And by the press, I mean Twitter. Especially about the size of their grilles. The front grille does dominate most of BMW's models, but here it's fairly balanced.
This is the M235i, so it's slightly more aggressive than the standard cars. The grille on this model has a very interesting nugget design and is framed in this cerium grey, although you can swap that for black if you opt for the M Performance model. Now that border is also matched on either side at the top of each of these grilles on the left and right hand side. And interestingly, these are actually real vents. They channel real air into the engine to help keep the components cool. Plus, they look really mean. It's worth pointing out that the engine is no longer mounted longitudinally and is instead mounted transversely. What that means is it's not positioned this way, it's positioned that way, which gives you a couple of advantages. First of all, the bonnet is even shorter. Obviously that affects the way the car looks. Some people might not like the styling, but it lets you see over the bonnet slightly easier to give you a slightly clearer view of the road ahead. And also, it gives you even more room for the cabin space. More on that in a second.
The body shape is interesting. If I was being unkind, I'd say it was a bit like a pregnant 2 Series. It's a bit taller, slightly wider, and a bit longer than the normal car. But that allows BMW more space to play with. First of all, there's room to hang an extra door. These have frameless windows, which I think always look cooler and more premium than a standard door. And, speaking of premium,
this is nice. This interior is pretty stunning. I'm inside of the 220D right now, and if you were thinking that the interior of this car might be a bit naff in comparison to the M235i, well, then you'd be wrong. Both interiors are stunning. There was a little period when I feel that BMW might have lost their way a little bit with their interior design, but I think they're right back at the top of their game right now. The first thing you notice when you jump into this car are the seats. These are optional M Sport seats with the integrated headrests, and they look absolutely fantastic. They're actually very supportive, but not too firm. They give you the feeling like you're in a racing car or something, but they actually are quite comfortable, and I expect they'll be quite good on a long journey. I also really like the geometric shapes on the dashboard, the quality of the materials. This is supposed to be a car at the lower end of BMW's product lineup, but essentially you're getting the same interior quality as you'd find in a BMW 3 Series or 5 Series. The star of the show for me inside this car has to be this steering wheel. It's big, it's chunky, and it gives you that feeling of being in control of something really substantial. Storage space inside this car is pretty decent. You get some good sized door bins, plus a lot of storage inside the center compartment down here in the middle, plus a couple of cup holders located in the center console. In terms of technology, well, one handy feature is wireless charging for your mobile phone. So I just dock my phone right there and it's secured really snugly. So many wireless charging points in cars cause your phone to move around and lose the connection, but that's not going anywhere at all. On top of that, you get a full-sized USB port and a USB-C port inside the central storage bin. In terms of gadgets, well, you got plenty going on in this car. You've got a couple of 10-inch displays, one directly in front of you, which contains all your driving information like your speed and your revs, and another dedicated to all your infotainment settings. So the connected drive screen can be controlled in a bunch of ways, either using your finger as a touchscreen, or using the BMW iDrive selector knob, or using your voice. So if I say, "Hey BMW,
what can I help you with?"
What's the meaning of life?
Driving pleasure.
Obviously. Now, remember I told you the new 2 Series was front-wheel drive as opposed to rear-wheel drive? Well, that's had a couple of upsides to the space inside this car. What it means is that BMW has been able to get rid of all the mechanical gubbins that allowed for rear-wheel drive and use that more positively for the amount of room inside the car. So now you get 33 millimeters more knee room and 14 millimeters more headroom. Handy if you regularly carry passengers or if you have a small family. Speaking of which, you also get ISOFIX points, obviously. And if you're going on long journeys, it's always beneficial to have a couple of USB ports. And here you have 2 USB points directly on the center console.
Boot space, meanwhile, isn't too shabby. You get 390 litres, although it's not a hatchback, so the opening is quite small. But you can drop the rear seats to make more room and cram in some larger, longer objects.
So that's the boring bit out of the way. What we want to know is how much fun is the M235i? Well, BMW aren't going to let me drive it quite yet. Hopefully that's coming soon, but we know a lot about the engine under the hood. What we know is that it's used in so many other BMW products, all the way from the M135i across to the Mini Countryman JCW and everything in between. It'll knock out 306 horsepower, 450 newton meters of torque, and it should do 0 to 62 in under 5 seconds. Will it be as playful and as dynamic as the old M235i Coupe? Probably not, but this uses BMW's xDrive all-wheel drive system, and that means it can send 50% of power to the rear wheels, so hopefully it hasn't lost all of its dynamism. So that's the BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe in a nutshell. Difficult car to wrap your head around at first, but makes a lot more sense the more you start to think about it. Stylish, practical, fast, two-door, former hatchback coupe thing. What? So that's the BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe in a nutshell. Difficult car to wrap your head around at first, but makes a lot more sense the longer you spend thinking about it. Stylish, fast, practical, two-door, former hatchback coupe thing. I quite like it. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. See you soon.